Hey guys, it's Toby Morrison here from CFS Health, and in today's video I want to talk about what I believe is the hardest thing about chronic fatigue syndrome. And I think this is important to just be addressed because we just started a whole new program last night for 100 new people who are getting their baseline so they can start their foundation to recovery. And it was fascinating to watch, to have 100 people introduce themselves into a group, and for the first time for most of them, to ever meet anyone else going through what they're going through and to feel fully understood. And the weight off their shoulders and the feeling of being understood for the first time ever was so powerful for many of them. They didn't feel alone, they felt understood, and they also can start to see that there's hope and there's positivity as well. And it got me thinking this morning, I think one of the hardest parts about chronic fatigue syndrome is that you're just not understood. There's two sides to this. On the external level, it's that. And it's really challenging. If you had a broken arm and you had a cast around it and you walked outside and your neighbor saw you, they would be instantaneously going up to you and saying, "Oh my God, are you okay? Would you like a cup of tea? Is there anything I can do for you? Oh, that must be so bad." All this empathy, all this understanding, and all this care. And then you have chronic fatigue syndrome and you walk outside and they're like, "Why isn't Bob at work today?" Or "Why isn't she going to school?" Or "Oh, she must be just lazy." Or there's just so much judgment around it because on the front, on the external, you look fine most of the time and they don't see the pain and suffering that you're going through. And I just think that is just so hard. It's so isolating and so lonely. And that's one aspect, that's on the external. So the feeling of not being seen, not being fully accepted, and not being understood, I think is one of the hardest things about going through something like chronic fatigue syndrome. And it's not until your loved ones or people in your life that care about you, and unfortunately, a lot of people end up not caring about you and you lose a bunch of friends. And I think that's really challenging too. But it's not until the ones that do really love you for who you are really ask what's going on. And so you can really explain it to them in an authentic way. And I think that can bring bonds closer together. But I also think it's really hard because you lose a lot of your friends. Now, the second part to this is the actual suffering in itself. And we've been grown up to believe that every time we get sick or we get a cold or a flu, we just go to the doctors, we get the antibiotics, we get the pill, we get the whatever, and we get better. And so it's really disheartening when you have chronic fatigue syndrome and you just, out of pattern and out of just behavior and habit, you go to the doctors and you keep searching and you keep searching and you keep searching, and you're left with no answers and you're left with no practical help. And I think that's one of the hardest things about chronic fatigue syndrome is it just doesn't work like that. And it's so hard to accept that and then go, "Well, what do I do now?" And I just think one of the hardest parts is accepting where you're at. And I spoke about this last night on our group call, and it's not until we stop being at war with ourselves can we really start to make progress. And one of the things that we shared on our first call together is acceptance is not resignation. And so this is for you right now. This is not about trying to get other people to understand you or anything. This is just for you in terms of moving forwards and improving. Acceptance isn't resignation. Acceptance is the starting point to move forwards. And it's hard because you spend years wishing that you were back to your old life and wishing that you could go and do what you used to be able to do. And so all your time and energy and emotion is spent in trying to change something that you can't change. And it just builds frustration, it builds resentment, and it basically does build illness and dis-ease in the body. It doesn't help your situation at all, but it's so hard to not do it. And so this is where it can be really powerful when we can accept where we're at so we can move forwards to where we want to be. And if you look back at all the success stories in the world, and there's many of them, there's a common theme. And every single person who improved and started living again and got their life back came to the point of just focusing on where they're at right now. And little by little becomes a lot. I know how hard it is. I've been through it myself, and it was like 17 years ago now. And back then there was very little help. Now it's way better. But this is what drove me to do this work. And the pain and suffering that I went through, I didn't want anyone else to have to experience what I did and what my family did. And this is why we do what we do here at Cephas Health. This is why we give practical help. This is why we have a step-by-step holistic program to help you guys get back into living and building your health again. And yeah, I just want to say that it's hard. It's not an easy journey, but it's one that can be overcome and one that can be changed for the better. But a big part of this is just acceptance of where you're at so you can build to where you want to go. And yeah, I just think it's so challenging to get there. Someone said last night on the call, oh my God, like that just sums it up. Like at war with myself, constantly beating myself up, constantly being angry and pissed off. And so all the attention and energy goes out from where that they could actually focus on right now. So I think they're the two hardest things is that isolation and lack of understanding. And then on the internal level is just the acceptance of what is. And so then you can move forwards with that. So I hope this video helps and just gives you some relief. I know how hard it is, and I just, want to say to you, keep going and keep learning about yourself and keep learning about the things that we're talking about here so you can start to make progress. And I got a text message from one of our clients recently, and she sent me a photo of her and her daughter hiking. And she said she'd been on an 8-day hike. And I said, oh my God, that's amazing. And I said, how far did you walk? And she wrote back 75 kilometers. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. That's amazing. And the thing was that when she started with us, there was no talk of that. There wasn't about that. Now, this lady was a hiker beforehand, so she's got that muscle memory. She was ill for a while and she was in her 50s, and so she didn't just get there overnight, but she did the right things at the right time in the right way and slowly built up. And that's really what it's about here. It's not about just trying a million different things at once. It's not just about taking supplements or getting your gut health. It's about having a specific step-by-step plan depending on where you're at, so you can focus on what you need that's going to move the needle for you right now to the next step. And when you can do the right thing at the right time in the right way, then you're going to start to get there. And this is what we see with everyone. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how. And once you can stop being at war with yourself and you can accept where you're at and then move forwards with that, you can really start to make progress and start to move forwards. So I hope this helps. If this video is helpful, hit the like button, so to speak. Let us know in the comments how you felt, if this was helpful, and subscribe to our channel because there's so many more great videos already here and already coming for you as well. And I'm going to leave a link in the description with a few helpful free trainings for you. So one on how to find your baseline and stop pushing and crashing and gain consistency, and then the 4-step process to get recovery started. And that's really good. And if I had that in my hands 17 years ago, I would have been the happiest man on the planet, because to have practical help and just to get started in the right appropriate way would have been an absolute godsend for me. It would have saved me years of struggle. So I hope this helps. I hope the free trainings help, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.